On this episode of the Built for the Pursuit podcast, we have Tyler Jordan from Realtree talking about getting ready for this season and what he's been up to. Do we even need camo to be successful? And what it's like to hunt with the president. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to the Built for the Pursuit podcast. This is episode 3, and we have a very awesome guest today with Tyler Jordan from Realtree to talk about all things camo and what he has going on for this season. Thanks for joining us, Tyler.
Thank y'all for having me. Been looking forward to it. Got to watch the first episode, last night of the Midwest Whitetail Guys. So excited to join y'all.
Thanks. Yeah, send your notes privately. So, but
y'all did a great job.
Thanks. So what's been going on? I think you're getting ready for some stuff down in Georgia right now.
We do. So I don't know when this podcast is going to go up, but we're 2 days away from the opener here. It's Thursday. Season comes in Saturday. So, real excited for opening day. I feel like August flies by every year. It just seems to always go by quickly, and, you're trying to scramble at the very last minute, getting stands hung. We've been doing that for the last 2 or 3 days, seeing some pretty decent deer. Jesse and Ginger Moorhead, they bring a group of about 8 or 9 people. They've been coming in for the last 4 or 5 years. We have an annual doe hunt that we do the opening weekend. We may put one of them or a couple of them on a couple of nice shooter bucks that we've been seeing as well. So, we're seeing some pretty decent deer. So excited to kind of get the season going. And, I feel like I always say this every year before it starts, but it's hard to believe that it's already here.
Yeah, no, I think we've got depending on Missouri or Kansas.
Yeah, a couple days, Tuesday next week here in Kansas. Yeah. So it sneaks up on you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And then everybody's already trying to figure out how to get out of the office.
And Tuesday looks okay here in Kansas. I don't know what the weather down there is looking like for the weekend, but I think a little lower temps. We've been in the 90s, 100s here, but
yeah, it's been cooling down.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty hot here. I mean, we're kind of the same way. These deer are kind of used to it, I think, already. Like, I've been watching cameras for the last few nights, and it seems like it doesn't really affect deer, too much here with the warm weather. I think opening day, the high is going to be 89, which is kind of hard to believe, but it's a little bit of a cool spell for what we've had. It's been in the high 90s for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So, so I'm hoping these deer are still going to be moving. This is really my favorite time to get in the woods, for us. I feel like that first month of September, even into early October, before these deer kind of, their range gets a little bit wider, it seems, you can kind of narrow in and focus on some of these deer. So, those first few weeks, you kind of catch these deer like it's an element of surprise in a way, where, middle of October to November, like, they may be on to you a little bit. But here you have a lot of time to kind of think and plan ahead. And so, hopefully we'll have some good results, by the end of this weekend, on into next week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything you're specifically keeping track of or targeting out there?
Yeah, I got one deer. I posted him a couple of nights ago on my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have deer with a ton of mass typically on our places, but this deer, like, his time length may not, be there like other deer that we have, but he's just really heavy. It's a deer actually we don't know that well, but just, judging by his body size, I think he's 5.5 or older.
Yeah.
So he's just a really pretty deer. He's kind of palmated too on one side, and so excited to see if, we can get on him. He was daylight last night. I was watching this camera for 30, 40 minutes last night, just kind of seeing, where the deer's coming out. And I think we're going to try to go up there this afternoon and hang a stand. And, there are a couple other ones too that I'm hoping we can get on. And then my dad's got a deer on another one of our properties where the lodge and stuff is for us. He set a stand up there 2 days ago. So that deer has not been daylight the last couple of days. He's been daylight consistent up until then, but I think that deer is probably shedding right now. He still had velvet on, which is kind of unusual for right now. I'd say probably, 95% of the deer are already out of velvet.
Mm-hmm.
So, hopefully we'll be able to get on a couple of good ones, and, we can have a productive weekend here in Georgia.
What's going on with Realtree road trips this year? What do you have planned for that?
Yeah, so I'm cutting back a little bit of my traveling just for me personally. I think I'm going to try to spend a little bit more time here on the farm and, traveling a little bit. I do have a lease in Kansas that I'll be going to probably toward the end of October, early November. I joined a lease with Chipper Jones, from the Atlanta Braves. Chipper was previously on Major League Bow Hunter, but Chipper's actually going to be doing stuff full-time with us. And Chipper's actually coming in town this weekend to hunt with us in Georgia. So excited to have him down here, just, a couple hours away from Atlanta, for him to come join us and, hopefully get him on a nice Georgia whitetail down here. I don't know if Chipper's ever had a chance to bow hunt or hunt a lot in Georgia in the past. So, excited to have him a part of the team of road trips. He's going to a few different places with us this year. He's got a place in Iowa he goes to, Illinois, maybe Indiana as well. So, if I'm going to be staying home, I think Chipper's going to be picking up a little bit of the slack, on my part and doing some of the traveling. But excited to have Chipper a part of the team in a bigger way.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So you're cutting back, trying to do some more, just stay home more, I guess. Just do more fun stuff, or.
I just, I really enjoy like being around here, the business side of things too, like, working on different things, projects at Realtree, whether it's camo patterns, just different things going on in licensing, marketing, just being more involved in the day to day. My dad is still very much involved with everything that goes on in our business, but, dad's, a little bit older too, trying to cut back a little bit of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try to spend more time around here and, just try to be a more integral part of the business here. And then everything we have going on here, on both of our farms, like it's just a lot of work as well. So, trying to pick up a little bit of that slack and, just being more involved. But, I enjoy traveling, but it seems like, whenever you're out of the office for a week, 2 weeks at a time, it's when you come back in, it's really hard to get caught back up on things.
Yeah.
We're going to have to,
which is a good thing. I mean, it's just part of, getting older and, get more responsibility, I guess. And, but, I'm totally great with it and, really excited to work alongside my dad more, in a bigger way. So it's all good stuff. And then we just found out too, my wife is, pregnant. So
congrats,
probably pretty good timing on all of that. Yeah. Thank you. So she's doing March. So my turkey season maybe cut a little bit shorter than in the past. But I think the timing of some of this is probably, pretty good for me personally and professionally. So all good stuff.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. You got to plan that. You got to plan that out, right? With, we've got 2 kids, so try to plan that out with where seasons start and seasons end, but that's awesome, man. Congrats.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, we're definitely excited. It was kind of a, pleasant surprise. And, like I said, but it's all good timing for us. I mean, just kind of gives me more of an excuse to, be home and stay around here more with the family and the business.
Oh, that's cool. Well, again, congrats, and a whole nother level of planning for the season as you try to navigate all that. But no, it'll be good. And then, with the sort of getting into the properties and the areas around there, are you wanting to do more land management or getting into that more? I'm not sure how much that you're doing right now, but is that something you want to spend more time prepping and getting that ready?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like we're pretty involved, how it is now, like Dad and I both. I mean, we spend a lot of time at both of our farms. The last couple of years, a lot of TSI, just, trying to develop more bedding for some of these deer on, one of our properties. And I really think some of that has really paid off. I think we're seeing maybe not the high end deer, like you go to the Midwest and you see a bunch of 170s, 180s, but, kind of that range for us, like the 140s to the 160s, which are still awesome deer, especially for Georgia. But I think we're seeing more of those deer, now than we were maybe even 3 or 4 years ago. Dad's had this place or both these farms since about the year 2000. And just learning more about some of the land management, the deer management side of it. Like I've really kind of entrenched myself with that more here in the last year than maybe I ever have before. But that kind of process of it is, especially as I get older, is probably the most fun. Love the hunting side of it and, love getting out there trying to plan for season. But, this side of it, trying to build better habitat, manage your deer herd the right way. It's really rewarding, seeing it when it pays off. And then when you have, you're seeing a lot of mature bucks kind of move into some of these places, bucks we've never seen before, don't have a history with. I'd say up until about a couple of years ago, most of the deer that we see on our place, we somewhat have had history with, at least in some way. But this year, like there's been so many new deer that we haven't seen. And I just don't think that's an accident. I think some of the stuff we're doing with protein on the monster mill side, creating little micro plots in certain areas, developing better bedding cover for these deer. It's just allowed some of these bigger deer to move in, to our farm. So, that side of it is equally as important as anything you do on the hunting side and prepping side. So, I'm excited along with the business to be more involved with the farms day to day too.
Awesome. No, that's the part I think more people we've been talking to who are getting into that side of it. It's sort of like not a shift, but just another kind of chapter to that season of it makes the second half of
extends
it.
The hunting. Yeah. Hunting becomes now it's like a full-time, all year thing that you're like you said, timber stand improvement. You're kind of, you can find something to do every month out there, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, you don't really get, some of that too, like on, when you go to places like Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, even though there may be like, you may go out there in the summer, put out cameras, try to find trails, try to learn land like this Kansas place that we, it's the first time I'm going out there. So, I've been out there one time with Chipper trying to learn that property the best that I can. So I kind of know what to do going into it. But, you have more, especially as I kind of get older too, like I just take more of an appreciation for our place down here in Georgia, not taken away from Nebraska, Kansas, anywhere else that we go. It's just, you feel more attached to kind of the overall process here. And I think the result, whenever you do get lucky and, you have a deer, it's a little bit more rewarding, I guess, in the end. So, it just, it's definitely a year-long process, versus like when you go to, somewhere for a couple of weeks, you get it done, while it may be a real satisfying feeling, there's just something special about doing it on a place that you really kind of, the sweat equity that you put into it. It's just different.
That was a common thing we heard with, even the Midwest whitetail guys and T-bone stuff. Yeah. I mean, having that history and putting that equity. Yeah. And seeing it year over year, pay out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You talked about the business side of it. What's sort of the future for camo? I know there's been a lot of discussion on camo patterns and, what's the right way to go with that? I know you guys camo is around really because of Realtree.
You even talked about different terrain, right? Georgia to Kansas to wherever, right? You've got kind of different environments, different needs and things like that too, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah. So like where do you see that going and from your perspective and what's the future of that sort of technology?
Yeah. We're constantly working on patterns. We talked about it a little bit before this podcast started, but we have a new pattern that's going to come to launch in 24 at SHOT Show. And I think people would be surprised, like, some of these patterns, they take 2 or 3 years worth of development. Dad just is a perfectionist at heart. And so, whenever he brings a pattern to market, he wants to make sure he's done the proper testing. We take a lot of elements on our farm, back to the office and, look at different leaves, limbs, and creating a camo pattern. And then, he takes that pattern from there, tests it in different lighting, different hunting situations, wraps fabric around the trees. He may take it to the Midwest, out West, different places in the Southeast, just as more of a proof of concept. So this pattern is one that I think, I think whenever Dad develops a pattern, I'm like, man, why would we ever try to outdo what we've already done, right? Because I think we've already got a really good pattern with, whatever it is, escape, edge over here. But Dad, something he always says is it can always be better. Like we can always make something more effective and better. And he's just got that perfectionist mentality that, he's never satisfied. So I think blending in certain environments, especially for duck hunting, turkey hunting, deer hunting, it's still very important to a lot of people. And I think Dad is effectiveness first at the end of the day. I mean, his whole deal with Realtree is America's most versatile and effective camo pattern. And I still think that holds true. I think he's got that mindset first.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there is something he said with there's definitely been a trend with some of the Western camo coming in, and now I feel like there's camo patterns are somewhat a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's definitely room for that too. I think there's a generation of people that it's more about standing out than blending in. They want to go into somewhere and they don't really care how it works in the woods. They just want to have something that looks cool and that is different. And that's okay. And I think, even with the pattern I'm wearing right now, Realtree Original, like we're selling some of these clothes on our website, and, Advantage Classic is another one, and it's the top seller. And Dad will be the first one to tell you he thinks that Realtree Original is maybe not the most effective camo pattern, but it's got that lifestyle element to it that, maybe they don't really care about it blending in the woods as much as they just like that it's got a simplistic look to it. They can wear it in the woods, but they can also wear it on a Friday night or Saturday to a football game. So it's definitely a different world. I think the last 5 to 7 years have probably been the most drastic shift in camo, across the board. Now you have a lot of different patterns and a lot of different companies bringing different looks.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of part of it, right?
I think it's kind of cool to hear, bringing in the terrain and stuff to kind of take it, put it together, and it takes years to develop. Are you guys thinking about, that hunter in mind too, of like, is it somebody that's elevated up in a tree stand versus somebody that's, maybe a rifle hunter on the ground or something? Do you guys take all those pieces, I'm sure, into consideration too? But
yeah, no, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you would think my dad's a madman, seeing him out there in the woods. Like, we have clothes now that we're putting people in, a ladder stand, putting people on the ground floor, and like he tested for morning, afternoon,
different times of day,
late evening, and different times of day, and sometimes, many times, different states, and like we have people that'll send in this photography, we'll send them the clothes, and Dad just wants to see how it works in different times of day. So I think for like, especially the edge pattern, people want to wear, some people will wear that for out west, deer hunting, turkey hunting, and so he tries to make that the most versatile pattern probably of the whole group. Where like Realtree Escape is a little bit more Western focused. Maybe Realtree Timber is a little bit more waterfowl, turkey focused. Edge, he tries to make as versatile as he can be, from coast to coast. And so, the testing that we have with this pattern, especially the one that's coming out to market in January of 24, I think you'll see a little bit of that when we, story tell this pattern is we've tested it literally everywhere. So I think it's going to give that, just that hunter confidence that, man, blending in is not the problem I'm going to worry about. Realtree's got me covered on this.
Yeah.
That's awesome. There's been a lot of internal dialogue even on some of our products on, colors and things like that too, and what's the most versatile and fits different situations. So
yeah, it's something where it's like it's in between. You're right. There's like a large lifestyle component to this, to camo, and then you've got the side of what it was actually developed for was effectiveness. So I think that's sort of person to person has a different percentage of importance. Some people are just wearing it because they just like it, and that's totally fine. But it's kind of cool to see, learn more about what you guys are putting into it and what it can do. Because, I mean, there's even a discussion, like, if you even need it. and you don't even need camo at all. I'm like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's a reason they made it in the first place.
Right.
And there's a reason the military is in camo, and like that's a thing. So I think just discussion is usually good because it makes. I'm assuming it pushes you guys to do more. Like then you have to develop something.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can just go back to the last. It's hard to believe we're coming up on 40 years. But, like you said, I mean, before, I would say the biggest two players for a long time would be Realtree and Mossy Oak. And, I think there was a large stretch there that, people put effectiveness first. And I still think there's a lot of people that put it first that maybe, that maybe wouldn't say so today. They like a little bit of a mixture. I think some of it too, not to call out specific companies, but people just like saying maybe more than, blended in. They just like saying they have an expensive piece of clothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the Yeti cooler deal too. I mean, there are companies out there that make a really high end product. It's sold for, a $600-700 jacket. And people just like saying they own, an expensive jacket or waiter or pant or whatever that it is, and so I think you have just that, that lifestyle element, to it that, it's just part of, the evolving, culture that we have as a hunting industry, which is fine. I think it's kind of great. Dad always says that, it's great that consumer has a lot of options now. Where I think, Mossy Oak and Realtree maybe had a real stronghold on the industry for a long time, but, now it's opened up to where, the consumer may buy a product for a lot of different reasons now. It may create challenges for some business, but, we welcome those challenges and, just try to do our part on, kind of staying true to our course of developing, an effective pattern, for different types of environments. And I just don't think that, we'll ever get away from that. That's always kind of been in our DNA.
Yeah.
Is creating the most effective patterns.
I think Carlos said it, pushes everybody to be competitive and think of something new. So excited to see what you guys come out with.
Yeah, looking forward to it. You said January?
Yeah, and like y'all said, it forces y'all to get out of your comfort zone, and it kind of pushes like your marketing of, department to think a different way. I think it's great. I think, for a long time, the two camo brands have not really maybe been tested in a way that we have the last 5 or 7 years. And I think competition is a great thing, and those challenges present hopefully a lot of opportunities, thinking outside of the box, and like I'm excited to show some of the stuff we've been working on in marketing, in 24, whenever we launch this new pattern. So it's all good stuff.
I think it's one of those things. People are gonna have their preferences. People are gonna have what they're gonna do. Whatever works for you, do that. Is probably the best way to do it. And you've got an option that we think's great, and it's what I'm using. I think you're in Realtree. Yeah, but it's to each their own, I guess. But it's something where it's cool to see what you guys are putting into it and how you're testing it and doing some of that. So
yeah, and I think that's part of the the storytelling too that we look forward to kind of telling a little bit more of this new pattern. Is I think people don't really know. We never really showed like the full process from start to finish. When I tell people it's a 2 or 3 year process on a pattern, they're like, man, why in the world does it take that long? I think people maybe take for granted that they may see it on the shelf somewhere and go, it's just a bunch of sticking limbs and leaves. But if they really knew, like from the start, like when you start piecing this pattern together, it's almost like a puzzle that takes months and months to really get right and fine tune. And so I'm excited to show a little bit more of that process. It's not just all computer generated and just we don't just have a designer in there that's just just doing this one job. And we take a lot of things in consideration. And my dad is all these patterns is all him still. And I've been a little bit more involved seeing some of that day to day. Kind of giving my own input on it. I did that with the Max 7 pattern, taking pictures, in different places in Louisiana, Mississippi. And, I think a lot of people don't know like that side of it. So it'll be cool to see whenever we kind of open that up and, they see the year's worth that went into developing some of these.
That's awesome. Yeah, cool history behind. What'd you say, 40 years for Realtree, or coming up on?
Yeah, we're coming up on 40. It's hard to believe. I think in 26 it'll be our 40th anniversary. So
that's awesome.
It's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah, we're 75 this year, so it's
Oh,
great.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's and it's one of those things where we'll be testing that for you as much as we can. We'll give you any feedback we've got, but it's something where we're trying to figure out too, even with our products in decorating, there's just a lot of options. So
cosmetics are a big deal, right?
Yeah.
For different reasons, kind of like we touched on, right? There's a cool factor now with some of this stuff, but there's also the hunt element to it, right? To some of these products that you're making, that what's the best product for use, but also you want it to look cool too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, and it's like the Realtree original shirt that I'm wearing right now. Like, we have some Realtree original items, and I would argue there's probably a lot more effective patterns on our website. I think my dad would too, but like, this is in our top 5 sellers online, which doesn't maybe really surprise me. I just think people want to look cool, maybe even on some binoculars or rangefinder, like, maybe where camo is maybe not as important as, blending in on some of those items. Like, maybe, a Realtree original, would look cool on some of that, it's maybe more about, and from the cosmetic side of, the rangefinder, binoculars, it's more about standing out maybe than blending in on some of that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, no, excited to see that come in, and looking forward to that one. With this season, I know you're kind of trying to stay home more, but is there something you're looking forward to this season? Is there the one thing you're making sure you get out for right now?
I would say Kansas. I'm excited to go to this lease. Like, when we went and looked at it a couple of months ago, like, I think it's got a lot of potential. Chipper's had some success there the last 3 or 4 years, but I still think that it's got a lot of room for, improvement on, some bigger bucks. And, they have some really good up and comers that he showed me that could be some really studs this year. So excited to go out there. The place we've been going to in Kansas, I've been going out to the same kind of area for the last 15 years. So I'm kind of excited just to go see somewhere a little bit different part of the state, and just different terrain altogether. Like, it just hunts completely different than what we've had in the past. So just trying to learn a new piece of property and kind of what these deer and, how they kind of use this piece of land, will be a fun challenge. So, I kind of like just the challenge aspect of going somewhere we've never been before. So that'll be fun. And then, especially just here at home, I would say, between those two, I think we have a couple of good deer here at home that could be some really big ones for us. So,
okay.
And to kind of do it off your own place too. It's a deer that we did have a little bit of history with the year before. He put on, which is unusual for deer around here, but he put on like 30 inches in 1 year. And the year before, we had him the whole month of September. And then the last picture we had of him was October 3rd. And then after October 3rd, never saw him again. Which, I mean, we have deer that disappear all the time, so it wasn't like a crazy thing. But, whenever we picked him up in the summer, we kind of looked back at some of the trail cam history and knew that he, disappeared, that October 3rd time frame. So I think I shot the deer September 23rd. Which is, kind of borderline right there. I tried hunting him opening day. The wind was kind of marginal. Looking back on it, kind of wishing maybe I didn't go in there. And because we blew some deer out that afternoon. Yeah. And then we didn't see that deer again for like another week. And then, so I didn't wait. I waited until the wind was just right when he kind of, got back comfortable in there, and was able to get him September 23rd. But if he was going to hold true to the pattern that he had from a week from that previous year, I may have maybe only had another week or so to hunt him. If he stayed true to what he did the year before. So it just shows you how finicky sometimes these animals are, and you can create the best habitat, have the most bedding, but sometimes when a deer decides to leave, they just decide to leave. So it was kind of a cool part of the story is like, when he disappeared for the rest of the season, a lot of times we don't know where these deer go. And we actually have a neighbor, I won't say his name, but his property's 5 miles from us. Well, when he left October 3rd, I think he had pictures of him all the way from the end of October to the end of the season from that year. So it's just kind of crazy when a deer decides to pick up and leave. They just do it.
And how wide that range can be.
But that was kind of a cool story. Yeah. So just to kind of learn the backstory of that deer, know a little bit more, just kind of, makes it a little bit, more unique and special.
That's awesome. Yeah.
You said that was in Georgia? Yeah.
Yep. That was in Georgia. That was off our place. Yep.
Yeah. That does make it more cool when it's on your own, your own farm, or you have some history with them.
That's cool. What is your favorite hunting memory?
Man, that's tough. I got like 2 probably. So I think my favorite one for just me personally was like when I shot my first deer with my dad, and that was on Christmas Day, 9 years old. And I did not care about the size of the deer. It was not the biggest deer. It was like a 7-pointer, but I still have that deer mount today. And, I just felt like I was part of the club, right? Just part of the guys' club. Finally got to do something that my dad always does. Dad always travels and leaves and gets to hunt, and like now I'm cool because I get to do this. And to have my dad along there with me, I just remember, like, even at that age, just like how much it meant to me personally to experience that with my dad. And there's nothing like your first deer. And I would even say my first turkey. When I was 8, I felt the same way. Probably more excited when I shot that first turkey, just because, I grew up probably turkey hunting more with my dad than I did deer hunting, just because Dad would travel a lot, deer hunting. But for turkey season, we have a couple of different places around here back in the day that he leased. So I think that first turkey hunt was probably my favorite. And then, besides that, though, other than just on a personal level, like taking my little sister and my little brother on turkey hunts. My sister shot her first turkey with me. My little brother shot a couple with me as well. So, getting to see them and experience that, kind of like how Dad did with me, and getting to take them is, I'll just always remember those.
You're well prepped then for, you're creating these core memories. So you got one on the way. You kind of got it figured out now, man. You're in good shape. I think maybe one more question on, bucket list hunt. Is there anything you haven't done that you'd like to, or that, it's still hanging on the list that you're like, man, someday it's not going to happen this year, but it's still out there that, you want to conquer or do?
I love whitetail hunting and turkey hunting probably the most. I like to elk hunt a little bit too, but one hunt I've wanted to do for a long time, and I may try to go do it next year, would be a moose hunt.
Where at?
I've always wanted to go do a moose hunt. Maybe in Alaska somewhere. I don't have it finalized yet. I mean, I've just been kind of talking about it with some people, but it would probably be like a late September time frame on doing that. And then now having a baby, trying to take advantage of, that may be my last like full, being gone trip. I mean, a couple of the ones we're kind of talking about right now are, 14, 15 days straight. Backpacking, no cell service, tents, which I want that full experience. So, and I like to do it with a bow. So if I can, get it planned out for next year, that'd be fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask you a bow or rifle or Yeah.
I mean, what do you consider yourself, more of an archery guy, rifle guy, 50-50? Like, what's your preference?
Definitely more of an archery guy. I have a preference for archery. I mean, I do like to rifle hunt. Some like when we go to Louisiana down there at Honey Break, they don't really have a lot of trees to hang in for bow hunting. So, I mean, I like to rifle hunt too, but if I had a preference, it would definitely be archery.
Getting closer, it's always once you get to catch the bug, you got it.
Yeah.
Chipper Jones, you hunted probably with a ton of awesome personalities, but say, somebody. I'll ask it two different ways, right? One of the people that you've hunted with that's a big name or a top celebrity or cool hunt that you have with somebody that we maybe don't know about, or somebody you haven't hunted with that you're like, man, or could be in the industry, could be not in the industry, but somebody that you say, man, that'd be a cool hunt to go on with. So and so. Don't say Carlos, but you could pick me. That's whatever.
Oh man. So a hunt that maybe a lot of people don't know about, and he's been to the farm a lot, but is President Jimmy Carter.
Cool.
President Carter lives in Plains, just a couple hours away from us. Actually, if you can see it, the picture right there.
Yeah.
That's President Carter and I, and that's actually his last turkey he shot. After that season, I think, just him, I think he was 98. If I'm 98 and still killing turkeys, that'll be a feat in itself. But, just had a lot of fun with him over the years. It was really cool. He actually journaled every turkey that he's ever killed. He has a little journal that he writes in and gives about a paragraph synopsis of just kind of the hunt in itself. And so I think he shot 12 turkeys total off the farm over the years. And then he typed that up for us, signed it, and we have those framed in our farm. But, what I'll say about him is I've got a chance to hunt with a lot of cool people, a lot of really good hunters over the years. But probably the most dedicated outdoorsman that I know is him. Even at his age, like getting there at 5:15, not a minute past 5:15 every morning. Sometimes hunting, when the hunting's really tough and turkeys aren't gobbling, the man will stay out there till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, trying to get it done. Whenever you'd ask him if he'd want to go take a break, no, want to keep hunting, want to keep after it. So, I'll always remember, hunting with him, and, just what a special, not a lot of people can say they've taken a president hunting or, and to kind of see his dedication, regardless of your politics, of what you believe in, just somebody that really enjoys the outdoor lifestyle like him, was really cool.
We talked about the effectiveness of camo for a little bit, but, also said the lifestyle part of it's important, and wanted to highlight some of the cool stuff you've been doing with Realtree, with NASCAR and Ole Miss, and, fishing, and kind of how you've extended it out. It's kind of cool seeing you guys move into these different kind of adjacent areas. What's your kind of viewpoint on that, and what do you guys see in the future for stuff like that?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You can see it. I got the Ole Miss Realtree helmet right there. And, that was an idea that Dad had. And, when Dad took that helmet to Coach Kiffin, it's kind of wild that even happened. We're going to do it again this season with, I'm not sure what game it's going to be yet, but they're going to do that Ole Miss pattern again. But, when we first created the Realtree fishing brand, we kind of thought it would just be fishing only. But it's just examples like that, with the helmet, putting some of these patterns on different things like Nike or Mizuno or Easton. They've kind of taken a life of their own in a way, and it kind of gives us something to, further to talk about outside of just the hunting side of things, like outside of just the hunting patterns. You have now a wide range of patterns that, bleed into, lifestyle, fishing, hunting. So, we've welcomed it with open arms, and I think it just kind of, opens up our business to new opportunities and talking to companies that maybe we thought we would never have a chance to talk to before, for licensing. And I think when people saw that helmet, it's crazy the amount of doors that opened in itself. They just, I never thought in a million years that you'd be able to pull it off and also to have it look really cool. But I think whenever it happened, like that's opened up a lot of just things that I didn't think were possible. So,
yeah,
hoping that can be a growing part of our business for years to come, on top of what we're, still doing in fishing and hunting. That lifestyle piece, I think, is equally as important as any. And I think, Realtree Original, the fishing patterns are just, proof of that.
Exciting to see what you guys are pushing, and really, really glad you were able to join us and talk through some of this stuff. We'll probably have to circle back with you once you spend some time on that property, see how it goes, and then anything else you need, just let us know.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, hopefully we look forward to catching up again here soon, maybe toward the end of the season for a little recap of how it went in Georgia, Kansas, and some other places. But appreciate Bushnell and the partnership and just what y'all have meant to us. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Tyler.
Talk to you soon.